Hello, everybody, and welcome back to some more Air Tycoon on Line 3. Um, Today I just wanted to make some more routes, vibe a little bit with this game. It's all going decently well, but not really as good as I would have hoped. This is a financial crisis here. If you take a look at the World Traveler Index, it coincides with this slope flattening out. But even afterwards, I'm still having some problems. As you can see, my profit plummeted last tick as I forgot to increase my employee salary. But in general, my profits have been going up pretty well. 400,000 on upticks is not a bad score whatsoever. Um, so yeah, I have that going for me, kind of. So yeah, in a lot of ways, the game is starting to go quite well for me. My profits are increasing. My everything is just starting to really pick up. Now, what am I lacking now then is kind of I am still in pretty big need of more aircraft and just getting better market capitalization in general. I'm really struggling in this department in the sense that I don't have enough routes, I don't have enough aircraft, and I don't have enough capability of making really nice routes. Um, as a result, I'm kind of stuck making suboptimal routes or just not enough aircraft in general, not enough hubs. And this all kind of is just a result of not having enough time to play. Uh, now, uh, I did say there were suboptimal routes, a lot of them, but a lot of the routes are still good. And what you're going to see me doing today is kind of unusual for me, and that is I'm not going to be taking all stopover routes. And simply the reason is there are not enough stopover routes left. Um, I would love to make all my routes into stopover routes. Everybody knows this. Um, they're my favorite routes. They're the best routes. But sometimes you just run out of cities which are available to make into stopover routes. This can and does and has happened to me. Um, so with that in mind, I'm gonna not only make stopover routes today, which is quite unusual. Another thing I want to do is finally open the Shanghai branch. I've been investing in it forever and never really capitalizing on the fact. Um, so I'm going to go ahead and open this finally, and we can start making some good stopover routes to Shanghai and connecting this city up with my 747-200s. Um, I'm using the 747-200 as my primary airplane right now, simply because it's the airplane which does the most work or is the most profitable per aircraft. And that's what I care about right now. I'm not trying to make the most money each aircraft can possibly make. I'm not trying to make the most money possible in the game. I'm trying to make the most money possible per aircraft I use. And the reason for this is simply because I don't really have enough time to play this game with many, many slot requests um, and many, many planes. I usually like to run 2,000 plus airline or airplane companies. But if I do that here, I'm going to run out of time to play. I'm not going to be able to replace my planes, which is something we have to start thinking about now that it's 1977. Um, so, I have to slow down my expansion and start replacing the DC-8s with DC-10s. And this is when my profit should, in theory, start skyrocketing. Um, so hopefully that's something which can happen. I'm not too sure if I'm quite going to be as profitable as I hope. Um, Even though this world isn't particularly competitive, um, my airline is not particularly well run, unfortunately. So you could see me not being as profitable as maybe I should be, which is a bit unfortunate, but we can work with that. I mean, I'm just curious, what kind of aircraft are people flying on these routes? 320Bs, so I can basically pretend um, that nobody is even flying those routes. Yeah, whenever you're dealing with competition on pretty bad aircraft, the way you can deal with it is pretend that the aircraft don't even exist. Pretend it's a monopoly route. If you're doing like a 720B or a really old, low satisfaction aircraft, don't even bother acting like the route has competition. Pretend it doesn't. Because you won't actually notice a very big difference between empty route and competing with a bad aircraft if you are using a good aircraft. Now, this is completely and utterly untrue if the other airline you're flying against is using a great aircraft, like a 747-200 or 100. In this case, you will notice a lot of competition from their aircraft. Um, it's going to pull over a lot of the demand. But in the case, which a lot of times you see suboptimal aircraft flying, like this is a 747-200, right? Otherwise, it wouldn't be able to make this route. So instead of competing with it directly, I'm going to compete with a very long stopover half. Because this way, I mean, there's only 3 schedules per week. My halves are basically guaranteed to be full because they each use up so little of the demand available for that route. And this is kind of a strategy you can use. You can look at what aircraft you're competing with. So 747-200, that is a good aircraft. And that means I'm going to make a very, very long stopover route. So somewhere like Chengdu, um, once again, another 747-200, as you can see, we can go ahead and make this as a very, very long stopover route. And the additional benefit of making extremely long stopover halves is, of course, you save on slots. Um, and while that's kind of a minor saving, in the grand scheme of things, it is also really, really convenient. Um, so once again, a route like this sends in. I mean, this route is actually big enough because LAX is so big to make even shorter stopover half. But I don't really want to do that too much, simply because, well, it's kind of unnecessary. Just because the Shenzhen half of the route is so big. And this is another route where I see mostly garbage aircraft. So let's go ahead and make a 4 schedule a week flight here. And that should be pretty good. Now, we have enough slots in LA here for one more route. So let's see if we can find a good one. Maybe something like here, Changsha to Los Angeles, and then we can do a long stop to somewhere like Montevideo. Um, yeah, once again, another 747-200. And as you can see, his bad satisfaction, he's hardly making any money, um, which is like interesting to know. As you can see, low satisfaction will equal to low profits, no matter how good your plane is. So yeah, make sure you guys don't have overcrowding and stuff like that, and you guys should do perfectly fine. Another thing you probably notice here is I'm really starting to run out of stopover locations. Um, yeah, there's really just not too many left. And this is just a result of geography and, like, of course, the world having a finite amount of demand, which is kind of unfortunate because you know me, I would love to make more and more stopover routes forever. But good things do come to an end, and we'll eventually run out of great stopover options, and we'll have to make some direct flights, or we're gonna have to make some worse routes. But for now, that's not too much of a concern. Still plenty of stopover routes left, and yeah, I probably should have saved my slot requests for the hub cities. Because those are kind of the cities running out of slots first right now, but I didn't think of that. So instead, I'm just going to try and find any cities to stop in. Like, I'm looking for bigger ones first, of course. Um, that's always my priority. I need to get some slots in Cairo. I actually don't have any there. Um, yeah, I'm just scanning around right now. I mean, maybe there's something close by, like Berlin. Yeah. Why don't I? Oh, I ran out of 747-200s. Okay, so now we only have DC-1030s. So DC-1030s are, of course, much shorter in range. So we're going to have a different selection of routes to make with DC-1030s. Like something like this. This would be a nice route for a DC-1030. Nice 5 schedules per week, and then combined with a really short route to patch on some extra, extra profitability. Um, let's see. Maybe on the other side of the earth, there's some stuff left, like Okinawa. Manila is just out of range of the DC-10, so we won't be focusing on that. Let's see. Anything to stop over to? Like, I can see stuff in this area. Okay, this is perfect, actually. To Geneva. All right. Another perfect stopover, so that's really nice. And then I think the last city we have slots in is New York, so we can go ahead and schedule some of these. Now, the DC-1030 is kind of be the smallest model of plane I use. Um, Given that I'm based in a really nice sized airports, New York, LA, Shanghai, these are all London, these are all really, really big airports, right? I don't have to focus on any smaller type of routes to utilize my airports. Another good strategy is to just take the best untaken airports all over the world and not bother with every single route like I'm doing. And the reason I'm doing what I'm doing is just to keep things simple and to keep my objectives clear. Um, I'm not really too interested in growing freely or too big um, this game, so I'm not going to do what I normally do, which is open hubs in basically every single airport and try and take all the best routes to every best city. Um, and kind of another good reason why I don't want to do that is just because it'll there's so many of important allies, right? And I really don't want to be messing with your routes. Kind of, I want to kind of leave your routes be or your hubs to be, so I'm not stealing your demand or that kind of thing. Um, because that's not really what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to have a fun game, and hopefully you guys are trying to have a fun game too. And of course, by potentially um, stealing your guys' hub cities, that's not really what we're really trying to do around here. I know there is a guy who is in my hub, New York, an ally member. Now, this was just an unfortunate coincidence. Now, I still do need my New York demand because with only like the number of hubs I have, which is like five, I have five hubs in total. Um, one, two, three, four, no, actually, I have four hubs only. So yeah, with only four hubs, of course, it doesn't leave me with too many options in terms of routes. So yeah, I will have to compete with you on certain routes, um, unless I open a new base. I don't know what's untaken, so like I would have to go around and look in every single hub to see whether it's an ally member there or not. And I want to do that, but I don't really have the time. Let me see if like a city like Guangzhou, I heard Emirates was taking this or something, or Simon area. Yeah, you have a lot of good routes to Guangzhou left, by the way. Like Toulouse, like all these cities in Europe are great. I mean, I understand slacking though. I mean, I'm slacking. Look at my Shanghai; it's even less utilized. But I've just started, in fairness, today. Um, my New York is starting to get some decent utilization, so a lot of the better cities are starting to have routes popping up to them. So yeah, at least I have that going. Um, but yeah, once again, yeah, no flame for what I said there. Like, I'm slacking off to not really taking as many of the routes as I should be, to a lot of these really nice destinations. Um, yeah, as you can see, this isn't a very competitive airways or air tycoon world at all. I'm used to most air tycoon worlds I've played before having far more competition, so it's a nice change of pace to have really relaxed players. It seems, but still a good solid like amount of players playing and playing well. Like, I'm not used to actually being so far ranked so far down. Usually I'm like climbing the leaderboards really fast, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of nice change of pace to actually have to keep chasing the pack for a long time, because I started first of all below them from having from choosing to have a slow start, and also not really accelerating very quickly, because I only play once or twice a day. It's kind of a nice change of pace, and I'm gonna see how high I can get on leaderboards like this. Um, at my current pace, right, I'm still limited by in-game money at the end of the day. I'm usually sitting on quite a few aircraft, but I do get around to using them after just one day or two. Um, so yeah, with that in mind, basically, um, I expect to still be growing at a decent pace. So we'll see how I can keep up with the crowd, and if I can keep up with the crowd. One thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna buy a singular Concorde for what is it? What is that route? Los Angeles to Washington. It's a really cool route, and yeah, there can only be economy on a Concorde, but like it's so cool to fly a Concorde. So we're gonna normal order one of those, and we'll probably get around to scheduling that tomorrow. And of course, now I've used all my aircraft. So that's basically going to be it for today. As you can see, I got a bunch of code share requests, so let's take a look at these routes. Um, 747, it's losing quite a bit of load factor, so this would be a good code share route to code share. I mean, I'm basically giving away money by code sharing because I don't really plan on requesting code shares back. Los Angeles to Dublin, I'll code share this one too because it's not full. Um, Now, keep in mind that a lot of these routes aren't going to be full for other reasons, but this route, for example, I'm not going to code share because there's no point to it. Both routes are full anyway. Why would I code share? Um, oh, and this route is actually a pretty prime example of how important name value is. This guy's route is probably new, um, which is why his load factor is lower. But if we take a look at his satisfaction, 35% satisfaction and 51 name value, and look at the load factors. Mine's full, 99% load factor, making 10K, and his is making 3.5K. And this is kind of why I chose to play this high name value method of play, because I don't care that I have a ton of my routes being in competition now. A lot of them will have bad load factors right now. Remember, I have unsatisfied staff. My satisfaction is not usually like 70 like this plane is. It's usually much higher, like maybe around 90 for 747 100. So yeah, these routes are actually less profitable than they should appear, because they should be around 100% load factor, even though this is a down tick. And while I have some really bad load factor routes, yeah, I suspect this is due to satisfaction. Yeah. If you take a look at my airports, I have 100% Hiroshima is overcrowding. Oh wow, I have tons of overcrowding airports, so I gotta go fix all this. So I'm gonna be right back. Um, but before I do that, I just want to show you guys how I do this. For airports, which are starting to hit their occupancy limits, like New York, I just increase like a maximum number of offices. It's really annoying to do this over and over again. And for cities which I'm not hubbed in, like Sendai, I'll do maybe five. And this five should hold up for a very, very long time. And then eventually, if your company grows really big, you'll need to request again. But if not, usually something like five or six slots in secondary airports will keep you good until basically the end of the game, unless you open, like, say, 10 or 15 hubs and connect all these little cities like Chihuahua to all of your hubs, in which case you're gonna go past 5 or even 10 counters sometimes. Um, and I have done that before, but in those cases, I'm usually hubbed in like basically every airport in the whole world. I've only done it a couple times, and it's really annoying and it's really time consuming. I can spend like half an hour in just this one screen, requesting slots and counters. So yeah, I'm happy that I'm a little bit smaller this world. I don't have to do this too often, and basically by explaining this, I've basically taken up the time to do this anyway. Anyways, I'm out of money again. Hopefully my profit keeps going up. One thing I want to consider doing now is easing off on investment. My name value and satisfaction is already so much higher than most other players. My number one restriction is starting to become basically just my money. Um, Let me just take a look at my competitors actually and decide whether satisfaction is continued, like it's worth continuing to pursue satisfaction. So let's take a look at a route with a ton of competition, and as you can see, my 747 it's stopped over, so of course it's full. um, but yeah, take a look at my competitors here. I have the highest satisfaction by a long way. These are old aircraft though. So let's see if I can find a route with a new aircraft. So to do that, I'm of course going to find a long range route like Singapore, which can only be flown with a long range aircraft, and see what my satisfaction is like. Um, Here we can see I have 104% and he has 91. Now he's making more money because once again I had the unsatisfied staff issue, um, which is why his load factor is going to appear higher than mine. Mine should be higher, in fact. Um, Another reason why his might be higher too is because he's investing in Singapore. As you can see, that is probably the actual reason why his name value is much higher in both cities. So yeah. I mean, I think I want to make Singapore one of my hubs eventually. Um, and if the London guy is doing it, I should probably do it. I hate Singapore though because it's an unstopoverable city. But it is also so big you just fly direct. Um, so we'll see about that. Right now, I'm sitting on. Let's see if Frankfurt is taken. Wow. Frankfurt is completely untaken and it's in a prime stopover location. Now it is taken to Asia, interestingly enough, with good aircraft too. But let's take a look at this guy. 101% satisfaction. Yeah, I cannot mess with that really. Not worth it. Because I think I'm eventually gonna run out of these 4 bases, right? I mean, I would like to have lower number of bases, but I gotta be realistic. These are gonna be exhausted soon. Seoul is taken to a decent extent, not completely. Like there's obvious missing nice larger cities, but it's taken to a decent extent. So let's take a look at Beijing, which is basically the same as Seoul, taken to a decent extent, but not great, and really not great to Asia. So I think I want to make my next hub Beijing. If nobody else is planning that, let's take a look at Tokyo as well. Tokyo is taken a little bit better, both to Asia and North America. So I want to make Beijing my next hub, maybe. It's also a good stopover location. And we'll go from there because I'm kind of going one at a time at this point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just literally max out the investment level so we finish that as fast as possible. And I'm going to go ahead and tweak some of my other investment levels now. As you can see, I'm spending a lot on advertising investment. So I'm going to lay it back a little bit in my main cities. So this is probably the layout I'll go with. London, New York, Los Angeles are all very important, so I'm going to invest very heavily. And yeah, we're going to go from here basically. In terms of customer service, um, this is going to save a lot of money going down to say level 6 or level 5. So I'm going to change to level 6, and we'll call it there. I want to keep it high still, of course. And this is a very long-term thing. It's going to have a very big effect in the very far future, so I need to really decide if this is worth going with. Um, yeah, taking a look at some of these satisfactions, mine is actually lower. And once again, I put into consideration that my staff are unhappy last turn, which is really annoying. But the turn is going to pass in 1 minute. Actually, I just realized. So that's a perfect opportunity to take a look at what I can do to increase those. Oh no, no, no! I have to set my prices. I never set my prices. Let's go quick before the turn passes. Otherwise, all the prices are going to be completely scrambled, and I'll never be able to set them correct. Let me just make sure my tickets prices are correct all across the board. If I see any ones or 1.0s or 0 or 1.0s or not 1.25 or 1.3, that's wrong. I think I just saw one, but we're going to ignore it because if it's just one, who cares? I'll not really ever notice the difference of one route's pricing. So I think everything else is priced correctly, which is good. There's some missing slots too. Let's go ahead and fix that. Even though slots are missing, the profit's still good for a stopover. And if you take a look at my most profitable routes now, they're getting pretty good. Once again, I don't stack aircraft when it would be possible. So, but yeah, my top routes are still quite profitable. You know, almost 10K for a single plane. It's not really bad at all, and especially this competition. Um, yeah, not bad. Sydney to London. Some people are investing in both. Like the routes are going, and I'm still competing well with them. That's really nice to see. Um, yeah, look at these routes. Fantastic, fantastic routes. Um, Kind of makes me wonder that I have a lot of like equivalently good routes to London, and what would happen if I were to upgrade them to 747-200s just own. You know what I mean? Like that would make so much more money than these leased guys with these massive overheads from leasing. And then routes like this, which could easily be flown with extremely large aircraft, um, like 747s, like quite easily would fill. I'm pretty confident at least. But yeah, anyways, let's take a look at my profit and 380K. So a lot better. It is an uptick, but you got to consider that most of my routes I just made aren't full yet. Like they're obviously brand new, and if I can find any of them, geez, let's sort by load factor. How about? And yeah, we can see a lot of them here. I mean, they're not full yet, so when they get full, my profit should go up a lot more. So that's awesome. Another thing I've noticed is that these 707s are getting super bad satisfaction. Now you can see the profits and occupancy tumbling for no reason other than the satisfaction. So we're gonna fix that soon too. But anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.